the Jesus way.
Oh, the Jesus way
Is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way.
Oh, the Jesus way
Is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way is the way of peace. When he is king, all wars will cease. May his peace begin with me.
The age-old question, what would Jesus do, is taken seriously by brethren. For this program, the question would be, what would Jesus drive? Some of the brethren of the Portland Peace Church of the Brethren are attempting to choose alternative energy cars as a matter of their faith. We took a quick poll and discovered that around 30% of the membership of this small congregation are driving hybrid or electric cars. To be exact, the congregation has 4 all-electric vehicles, 2 electric and gas-powered cars, and 4 families have variations of a hybrid vehicle. Now, if you were David Radcliff of the New Community Project, you would say that the best thing to do is ride a bicycle. Maybe Jesus would ride a bicycle. But for today, and those who are not so pure, we're taking a look at the newer technology that will still get us down the road, helping the environment, reducing pollution and our dependence on fossil fuel, and using renewable electric energy resources. Electric cars have been around a long time, first being invented in the 1830s. Even Porsche had an electric Porsche in 1898. Is this the next revolution of transportation technology? As part of this program, we're going to look at some of the new electric cars that were at the Portland Auto Show a few months ago. In Portland, there are some wonderful brethren who have made the switch to electric energy cars. Craig and Pam Enberg, Anna Meyer, Charles Smith, welcome to Brethren Voices.
Thank you, Brent.
It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thanks, Brent.
Thank you. Your families have all switched to all electric cars. Charles, you have a Leaf on, and you've had it for several years.
Yes, I've had it for over 4 years.
Tell us how you first discovered the Leaf and why you wanted an all-electric car.
My path to leafhood was first hybrids, exposure to Ed Groff's little Honda hybrid, and at work we got...
No, that was a Honda Civic.
Yes.
Okay.
And I was impressed by that, and then shortly after that at work we got Toyota Priuses in 2006, and they proved to be very reliable, efficient cars, and I had an opportunity to purchase a Honda hybrid, and I had almost a 50-mile commute. I thought it was important to keep the costs down, and I got that, and that technology impressed me, and I was kind of researching electric vehicles all along, and they had a lease that was less than $100 a month on a Nissan Leaf in the second year of production of the Leaf, and I had a Subaru Outback that I loved for 18 years, but it was time for some very expensive maintenance on it, and I decided that I would try the Leaf on a 2-year lease basis as my primary commuter car, and Nissan was good. They let me extend the lease all the way to 4 years, and just a couple months ago they let me purchase it at a very generous, very fair price. And
So you started with a Leaf
yeah.
on a lease, 2-year lease,
Yes.
extended it for another 2 years,
Yes.
and then you bought that same car.
Right. Right.
And you're very happy?
Yes, it's really good. It's fun to drive. It's economical, and it's so smooth to drive that to me, it makes other cars feel primitive.
Pam and Craig, what led you to get an all-electric car? And which car do you have?
We had a Chevrolet. We had a Buick that we were very fond of, but it got older and older, and we repaired it many times, and it just started to seem like that was enough. And Craig had for a long time been very interested in the electric vehicles, so we decided that this was the right point for us to strongly consider that. And our son-in-law has a Volt, V-O-L-T, which is, we liked it, but the visibility for me was a little difficult since I'm a shorter person. And of Craig was researching online and came across the information about the Chevy Bolt, B-O-L-T, and we got really excited because it had such a long range, and I think that was the main thing that sold us on that car. So we actually bought one sight unseen, and we're just extremely happy with it.
And you've had that car for how long?
We've had that car about 3 months.
So you actually saw the Bolt in person online,
Yeah.
and then you actually drove it. You didn't actually drive your own car the first time you
No,
drove a Bolt
no.
because it wasn't actually available yet.
That's right, right.
So where did you actually get your hands on the wheel with a Bolt?
Charles gave us a pass to the car show, and so we went and we had a chance to drive one there, and it was a great relief to find out that they're actually very easy to drive and comfortable to ride in.
Anyway, I'm curious about the faith statements that we've made, and I understand there's probably a little more to it as we talk about being Christians and living the life that Christ would live in harmony with our environment.
I believe that having as least impact on creation fits with my faith and spirituality, and I just feel very lucky that I can live that part out while still having a very enjoyable, I would say superior experience. And this is somewhat unrelated, but a lot of my closest friends are cyclists, and they love nature, and they like getting out on their bicycle and riding sometimes 50, 100 miles. And if you pass them with a pure electric vehicle, you're not putting carcinogens into their faces. And I think that's more like Jesus.
Yeah. Craig, you wanted to make a comment?
I wanted to add something to what Charles was saying, that of all the presidents in my lifetime, the one I admire the most is Jimmy Carter. But while he was president, he issued what came to be called the Carter Doctrine, that we would go to war to secure our supply of oil. And to me, that is the worst blemish on his presidency, and it's for me a good reason for people in a peace church to think about how can we stop requiring our country to go to war to supply us with petroleum.
One of the things that I remember from the Gulf War is that our vice president made a speech saying we could not allow Saddam Hussein to control 25% of the world's oil. And 6 months later, we were at war with Iraq. And I absolutely agree. I think the least we can do to provide reasons to go to war, and energy is a big reason to go to war. Energy and resources and religious beliefs have been the basis of many, many wars in this world. And I think respecting others and reducing our dependence on resources that we don't have is definitely making a peace statement to say, let's live with what we've got and be happy with what we have. Craig, talk to me about the aesthetics of driving your Bolt. I understand you really enjoy it.
It's the most fun I've had driving since I was a teenager, especially with the one pedal driving, where you're just braking your car by taking your foot off the accelerator rather than applying it to the brake. There's a responsiveness, a fun aspect to the driving it around the town that personally I've never experienced since I was 17 or so years old. So yeah, I like that. Brent, if it's okay with you, I'd like to get back to some of your introductory comments where
Sure.
you talked about the faith aspect of
Yes,
cars.
please.
And I just want to say that for us, cars are sort of problematical. In general, cars. Two of my close friends were killed in car accidents before I was 21. One of our best friend's sons was killed by a drunk driver that hit him on the sidewalk before we were 30. And another dear boy, that one of the most brilliant children I have ever known, that I babysat when he was a little boy, was struck when he was on his bicycle and suffered brain damage. So to me, our cars are not non-violent to get into the brethren ethics of the thing. So it's always a compromise to drive a car, including an electric car. And it's, Pam and I have always been conservation minded. We've always thought about these issues, and I was fortunate enough to commute by bicycle almost my whole life. So we always tried to own only one car as kind of a peace, simple life, non-conformity to the world stance, except for a brief time when our children were teenagers and we had a couple of cars then. But if you got to have a personal car, which in our lifestyle and culture, most people need one, I really encourage the viewers of the show to consider trying to get their hands on an all-electric vehicle. I guarantee you won't regret it. You'll enjoy driving more. You'll just be so thrilled you don't have a tailpipe anymore. We're all dependent on petroleum in our culture. Every time we go to the grocery store, there's a lot of stuff that got trucked in with a lot of diesel fuel that we're buying. So we're not pure just because we have an electric car, but it's one thing we can do. And another issue for me and Pam was the Standing Rock protests. When that happened, we felt in whatever small way, we got to do something to make a statement against the power that those people have, because we were so inspired by the Native Indian people and their protest.
Thank you for adding that, because I'm thinking of the Sierra Club motto that take only pictures, leave only footprints. When people live a simpler life, they don't disrupt and impact nature in such a destructive way. And I think historically, brethren have tried to have a low footprint. You know, being farmers and living close to the land, you respect life and you respect land much more than we do when we live in the city. So as I'm thinking about the faith aspect, I'm thinking about it's a way to live a little more simply and a little more naturally, and to not be using the fossil fuels, which are ultimately going to be exhausted. And then what are we going to do? We're going to live a simpler life. So we can start a little earlier. Well, what are the compelling reasons for someone to consider an electric car? I had mentioned a few at the beginning that were kind of occurred to me, but maybe you have some personal reasons for driving or buying or leasing an electric car.
I think there's the performance, fun to drive aspect. They're very, I almost hesitate to tell the people this, but they're very quick off the line, you know, from 0 to 30 or 40 miles per hour. Out at freeway speeds, they're just like a regular car of comparable size. They're not hot rods at freeway speeds, unless you do have a Tesla. So they're fun to drive. There's a quiet factor that's just pleasant to drive. When you're in heavy traffic, you are generating electricity or not losing very much electricity. So there's a kind of zen, calm aspect that's nice about them. Their maintenance costs are very little. They have so much less moving parts than a gasoline engine. They don't have a cooling system. There's no oil pump, there's no water pump. There's just so many maintenance items that you don't have to worry about with an electric car. You still have to replace tires, and I suppose the light bulbs. Mine has LED light bulbs, which are going to last probably the life of the car. But so that's an aspect of it. And the price of the fuel is about a third or a quarter, depending on what your electric rate is, than a gasoline car. And there's your power can be made locally. It doesn't have to come across the ocean on a super tanker or car. Yeah.
There's no actual transmission.
Right.
The more electricity you apply to the engine, the faster the engine turns.
Yep. It's one speed.
One speed, full ahead. When we took our Brethren Voices cameras to the Portland Auto Show to look at the latest entries of the electric car field, we talked to Gary Graunke of the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association, who's a friend of Charles Smith.
Okay. Hi, I'm Gary Graunke from the Oregon Electric Vehicle Association, and we're here at the 2017 Portland Auto Show. We've taken over the Tech Center, and we have all electric cars, 13 of them in this area, although there's about 30 at the show. So this year is a particularly exciting year. Not only do we have a lot of new models, but we have the Chevrolet Bolt, which has come out, and increased by 100 miles the range. It's 238 miles on a charge for a car that starts at $37,000. So it's a very affordable car for the average person. It will cost about 2 cents a mile to operate, and it's just tires and wiper blade maintenance going forward. So that's a fantastic car that will set the bar that all the other car makers are going to try to catch. We also have a Prius Prime that's all new and has double the mileage of the previous one. There are also plug-in hybrids, so you can go for electric miles for your everyday commutes and still use gasoline for long trips, and it will do everything that your normal car will do, except at a cheaper price. They're actually now cheaper to operate in total cost of ownership than a gas car. So do yourself a favor, do the planet a favor, and check into upgrading your car to an electric car of some sort.
Charles, you've had a Leaf for 4 years, and you're a member of the Oregon Electric Car Association.
Yes.
And at the Portland Auto Show, you gave us a tour of the new Leaf.
This is what I have. It's a Nissan Leaf. This is the newest version. Mine's almost 5 years old now. The car came out in 2011, and a new generation is expected to come out very soon by next year. I'm very pleased with it. It drives really smooth, smoother than any car I've ever done. The size is comfortable. It's kind of a mid-size car with a lot of room in the back. Everybody that's ridden it seems to like it and find it comfortable. The visibility is good. The acceleration is very pleasing. This is the Hyundai Ioniq Electric. It's a new car that is just starting to come on the market next month in California, and is rumored to come to Oregon within a year or possibly sooner. This is a pure electric version. It's got a battery that will allow it to drive about 120 miles on electric range only. It's Hyundai's first go at this. They also have a plug-in hybrid version of this, which is here at the show, and they're going to have a regular hybrid that doesn't plug in. They're kind of setting their sights on a combination of Prius and Nissan Leafs. Electric vehicles, or EVs, have different ways that you can charge it. Most common way is in your home, and there's 3 levels of charging. We call it level 1, level 2, level 3. Level 1 is simply your 110 plug that anybody has in their house. Cheap. We already have the plug-in. The cars come with those chargers, but they're very slow. It's more of an overnight charging for most cars, depending on the size of the battery. Level 2 is like your typical dryer vent or oven or welder. That will charge about 5 times as fast. You're looking at a couple hours to 5 or 6 hours, depending on your battery size. And then there's quick charging, which is level 3. Not all EVs have them, but you can oftentimes get an 80% charge in a half an hour or less. And there's also public charging, which is going to be level 2 or level 3. This is a typical level 2 charger plug-in. It's called a J1772 for technical people. You can put that in your garage and just plug it in, and you'd be charging. And you can do other things while your vehicle's charging at home, like sleep or watch a game or whatever you do.
It has been forecast that by the year 2030, there may be as many as 6 European nations that will be permitting only electric car sales in their countries. Gary Graunke spoke to us about that possibility.
Right now there's only about 500,000 electric cars in the United States, and President Obama really wanted there to be at least 1 million, I think, by a year ago. So we're a little short of some of those goals. Some countries like Norway, 25% of their new car sales are electric cars, and over 1% of their installed base is electric at this point. and that's a country that actually exports oil, but has lots of hydropower that's good, clean, cheap electricity as well for their citizens. Other countries like the Netherlands have realized the implication of fossil fuels on climate change, and they actually are banning the sale of fossil fuel cars after 2025. So Europe is sort of leading the way in many ways. China is really emerging as a big electric car place, because obviously in Beijing, the average person loses 4 years of life expectancy because of the bad air that they have there. So they're interested in going to clean transportation. When you get a car in China, I understand there's a lottery if you want a fossil fueled car, and you can only drive it on an odd or even day, and it's about $6,000 a year to renew your license. But with electrics, there's no lottery. You can always license it, drive it every day, and it's still $6,000 a year for your renewable to renew your license. But there's a lot of impetus for electric cars and buses even in China. So we're very excited to see electrics coming up in light-duty vehicles like cars, but also public buses, the TriMet-size buses that we might take. BYD, and there's several other American firms, Proterra, that are making electric buses that are the same size and go hundreds of miles. So we're excited to see all of that happening right now.
Anna, you don't have an electric car, but you've ridden in many.
Yes.
I believe you've ridden in a hybrid Prius, and you've ridden in a Bolt, you've ridden in a Leaf, you've ridden in a Volt. Just tell me your impressions of being a passenger in one of these electric vehicles.
I think they're really fun to be inside. They're very quiet, very comfortable, roomy inside. I'm impressed that they feel so comfortable.
I would like to say that it now really, really bothers me when I see a car that's putting out a lot of smoke and fumes. Really bothers me. When I had a car that was doing that, couldn't be so critical of others. But now, I really like the fresh air. And particularly when I'm out driving and it's quiet, as we talked earlier, and I'm in the countryside, I really like the idea that I'm not making the air polluted.
Brent, you started out, what would Jesus drive? Another question we should all ask is, how would Jesus drive? Especially as we've all been witness to aggressive, violent road rage experiences as we've been driving in the highway and even in the city. What I've discovered in driving our new car, our Bolt, even though it's only been 1,200 miles, is that I feel more connected with how much energy and how much speed I have in the car, because I'm always getting a monitor on the screen of where the dash is of my energy use. And I have found that I'm calmer as I drive than I was when we were driving our gas motors. It's been an aspect that I wasn't expecting. That I'm just a little more peaceful inside and calmer no matter what's going on in the vehicles around me. And I just think that's an advantage to electric cars. Quieter, and somehow it calms you too.
Mm-hmm.
What Craig was talking about, and I was kind of mentioning with the Zen aspect of it, is an intangible that's hard to express, hard to measure. But I would mention that I had that same experience, and I'm pleased to say that after 4 years that I still have that experience. It's part of why I'm ready to have our second car be an electric car, because I might be going to work and there may be a traffic jam. That was going to happen whether I had a gas car or an electric car. But with the electric car, I'm just feeling like, okay, I'm not needlessly polluting the air. I'm not wasting energy. And at first, when I was in the first traffic jam, I was worried because I was thinking like a gas car, like my Honda, which is a very efficient car, but when it's stuck in traffic, it's burning gas, and you can see your rate of efficiency going down, and you kind of sense a frustration level. And we still have the time that we lost. We don't get that back, but there is a Zen aspect to it. And I was just curious if you have had that feeling.
You know, when you mention that, there is something that I can tell you. Increase my mileage percentage probably 30% just by not accelerating out of a stop sign or signal as fast as I could. As I was slowing down for stop signs and accelerating slowly out of them, I was watching other people zoom by me, accelerating out of the stop sign and braking at the stop light. And they were maybe 5 seconds or 10 seconds ahead of me.
You see them at the next stoplight.
And you see them at the next stoplight, and they're getting maybe 25 miles to a gallon, and I was getting 45, 47 miles to a gallon just by taking it easy. And I think that kind of dovetails into what Craig is saying. Is I learned to be a calmer, peaceful driver, and because there was an economical value to driving in a reasonable way.
Yeah, I think when
That's how Jesus would drive, Brent.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So maybe we're going to call this How Would Jesus Drive? Craig, Pam, Anna, Charles, thank you for being with us on Brethren Voices.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Brethren have a long history of being good stewards of the earth, which has been created by our Creator. We can coexist in a world where all of life can survive and thrive. However, since the Industrial Revolution, mankind has done much to threaten the natural balance of nature on this planet, and the existence of many life forms has ceased. However, it finally may be within our power and our knowledge to have a modern society that can save, protect, and restore the balance of nature to our earth, our home, and our future. An important part of that possibility could be the switch from gas-guzzling vehicles to non-polluting electric cars. For Brethren Voices, this is Brent Carlson, wishing you peace.
Begin with me. Oh, the Jesus way
Oh, the Jesus way
is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way
Oh, the Jesus way
is the way of peace.
is the way of peace.
Oh, the Jesus way is the way of peace. When he is king, all wars will cease. May his peace be